Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome Gary from Terminal 3, a fellow Hong Kong startup in the data infrastructure space. Excited to have the conversation today.
Thanks for having me, and thanks to Reap for doing this.
Let's do it.
All right, Daren, I'm going to jump into it. Now, Reap started off as a cards and payments company, but the vision seems to be much bigger than that now. Okay, so what does the end game actually look like for business finance and for payments in Asia? And in 5 years, what does Reap look like?
Yeah, it's when you're a startup, it's always fun because the end game continues to evolve and move, right? Especially in cards and payment space where you're combining something as dynamic as stablecoin infrastructure with now agentic commerce. I think that goalpost continues to evolve. I think for us, we've always been at the precipice of innovation and change. We started off here in Hong Kong really as crypto skeptics in a lot of different ways, but as crypto payments became a lot more specific to payments for cross-border payments, where the problems and frictions that we saw within FX hedging, especially as it relates to small businesses, was so prominent, it became quite the focal point for us. And if I extrapolate 5 years, I think there's going to be a lot of change within the agentic space that will leverage some of the infrastructure that we built through stablecoins as it is today. So the form factors of cards, the form factors of payments that we are sort of very familiar with today may not be the actual end all and be all, and we're excited to contribute to what that future looks like.
Yeah.
Gary, you went from running one of the most iconic legacy media brands in Asia to building something from scratch again.
Yeah.
What did the transition teach you about the differences between operating at scale versus creating something new from scratch?
Shockingly, what I learned was that they're not that different. And a lot of the advantages that one might think small companies have actually belong to large companies and vice versa. So it really is about operating cadence and discipline in both, whether or not you're a multi-thousand person company or for us, a 30-person startup. Not having discipline means you're going to be slow. It doesn't matter if you are small and you're quote unquote agile, right? And so what we focused on at Terminal 3 is the same things as the South China Morning Post, which is very clear cut mission. The entire organization, 30 people or 1,500, align on a singular mission. 2, operating discipline that allows us to make fast decisions, allows us to move extremely quickly and make sure that quality still remains the defining characteristic of everything that we produce. And 3, making sure that we're consistent with the market, right? A lot of people ask about credibility, and they want to know how small companies, big brands, remain reputable in ever-changing industry. And my answer has always been, be consistent. Make sure that your partners and your clients know what to expect from you. Make sure that your employees know exactly where you're headed and what their contribution is. And individually as leaders, make sure the entire industry understands who you are and why it is that your company does what it does and why you lead the way you do. So those 3 things are the same. Large company, small company. I guess the surprise is how consistent everything is. So a lot of fintechs talk about serving SMEs, but it's super easy to just start slipping up market. So how do you stay disciplined about what you're building and who you're building for? And has that ever created tension for you guys at Reap?
Yeah, I think we focus on SMEs, but I think honestly, the infrastructure that we're building, the way that we serve them can be through different platforms, different trade financing platforms, different infrastructure products. But I think for us, the key focus is on the mission of the companies, which is to provide more financial access to businesses and individuals everywhere. And obviously small business is a core part of what that definition looks like. And very often the platforms that we're serving and the infrastructure that we're providing, their end users are SMEs. I think stablecoins and our focus on stablecoins over the last few years have really sort of expanded the type of SMEs and the geographies in which the SMEs are based in that we're able to serve. So we're excited sort of to leverage that continuously to be able to provide a more of a global full suite product suite across both cards and payments everywhere. There's a lot of noise right now about AI transforming everything, right? Terminal 3 is in the middle of that, building agent auth for AI ecosystems. What's the version of the AI story you actually believe versus what is really just hype?
I actually believe most of the AI stories right now, or the narrative around agentic everything, agentic commerce, agentic economy, the agentic future of our world. I do think that there's, of course, some hype. I mean, we can argue that the valuations of the foundational companies right now are just completely unsustainable, that the oligopoly that is being built by the few American foundational model companies is not good for the entire ecosystem, not to mention the rest of the world. There are many things that we can argue. But I think that the future that they are painting, I believe in. I think the one nuance I would add to this, though, is that enterprise agentic reality will come much faster than consumer retail agentic reality. We spend a lot of time talking about how AI agents from OpenAI or Claude are going to change the way that retail consumers consume, how we buy, how we make decisions. And that is to some degree true because of chatbots, right, at this point. But truly autonomous transactions will come to the enterprise world at far greater volume, at far greater speed than in retail. It's the boring stuff. It is things like procurement or B2B transactional settlement or trade financing or treasury management that are going to be overtaken with autonomous AI agents. And that's also why I think enterprise governance, enterprise security is so important. You mentioned Agent Auth. And Agent Auth is the first of several developer applications that Terminal 3 is launching that will help enterprises be able to secure the environment around their autonomous agents. There are a lot of major issues that are still unresolved for future agentic scale. Take, for instance, agentic identity, which Agent Auth is supposed to solve for. Systems do not know if they're engaging right now with the correct agent because AI agents are getting really, really good at faking who they are and what they're responsible for. Second of all is authorizations and permissions. How do you know that an AI agent has the actual programmed intent and the permissions to complete a transaction? You don't. Again, AI agents are really, really good at stealing credentials and pretending like they have permissions. We have to solve that problem. Terminal 3 is doing that with verifiable credentials. The third is audit trails. Do we know when agents go wrong? Today, the only way for us to understand it is by asking the agent. And agents have a really bad history of hallucinating what they've actually done in the past. So immutable audit trails that agents cannot themselves touch or edit, that's going to be really important for governance and regulation. And the final thing is data privacy. Data privacy is a massive existential threat in the new agentic economy. Why? Because every single time we put a piece of sensitive or private data within the context window or the memory of an AI agent, we've lost control of it. AI agents have shown us they are more than willing to trade private information if they think it gives them a more direct line to a result. And they have no ethics or morals, and you really cannot program those ethics and morals in. The only thing you can do is create guardrails or very, very clear rules. So data privacy and security, Terminal 3 solves it by securing private data within a confidential compute network, which we call Terminal 3 network, and providing AI agents only querying access for them to make autonomous decisions, not for them to hold on to that private data and do whatever they want with it. So we have to solve these fundamental privacy, security, and governance issues before AI agents can truly scale and be able to kind of bring to fruit this autonomous future that we all want. We've kind of buried the lead here. We're finally getting to the big news. You guys have just been acquired by Payword, which is the parent company to Kraken, in a $600 million deal, which is one of Asia's largest fintech exits ever. First of all, congratulations. That is a major accomplishment, a huge valuation, but it also raises questions about the future. What does REAP start to look like inside of such a large global exchange? And has your mission changed?
The short answer is no, it hasn't, right? I think for us, we've always been a very mission-focused company around financial access. And if you look at Payword specifically, their mission is also to go beyond crypto, to go beyond just trading and speculation as a core part of their platform, which is why the Payword acquisition is very interesting, where their mission and vision is very much sort of around super infrastructure and being able to provide global infrastructure that encompasses both the fiat side, which we are obviously going to be a huge contributor to, but also the more crypto native side, which now we have access to, and our customers and clients also have access to be able to create a more holistic both on-chain and off-chain, crypto native, but also fiat-enabled platform for both cards and payments. And this is the direction in which financial services is driving towards. And this is also the needs that small businesses and enterprises everywhere are looking for when it comes to new age modern financial infrastructure. And now, if we look at sort of the future of finance, the agentic side continues to be a key area of focus for them as well as for us. So if we can combine both the crypto native and on-chain side and use agentic to sort of wrap everything together, I think this is really what our customers are very much looking for. So both of us are building infrastructure that people never see. Identity rails, payment rails. How do you think about the challenge of telling that story publicly when the product is invisible by design?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Daren. As storytellers, well, actually as CEOs, and you know as well as I do that most of the job of a CEO is storytelling externally or internally. The reality is that we have to understand exactly who we are telling our story to, right? Who our target audience is. I think for infrastructure, generally speaking, there are three groups of people that we should care about. The first is our team needs to know why we're building. And I think for infrastructure, it's much harder than for consumer technology, because consumer technology, you can launch a landing page and get people to sign onto a wait list and immediately see the kind of potential impact your product will have on the community, on the industry. With infrastructure, it takes much longer, 18 to 24 month sales cycles for large enterprises and governments. And then even after deployment, it might take a long time to see the actual industry impact. So it's incumbent on us to be able to be clear about the changes that our technology will make for the world in the future and make sure that our teams are fully aligned with that. The second constituent for storytelling are the enterprises themselves. When it comes to cutting edge technology, and both REAP and Terminal 3 live in frontier tech, right? That tech needs to be explained. And that explanation is oftentimes very, very hard. We might be the first in industry to tell that story. So we have to figure out how to distill all the hardcore technology down to simple solutions. That means we have to understand our clients really, really well, understand their problem sets really, really well, understand what keeps their executives up at night so that our solutions actually fit into their storyline, right? And then the third is we deal with regulators, policymakers, governments all the time. And of course, they have a completely different set of considerations. They are trying to keep their nations secure. They're trying to keep their citizens safe. They're trying to keep their assets from outflow, right, in an uncontrollable way. And we have to explain to them how infrastructure helps them reach their goals. That's a whole different set of stories. Every single one of those are not really public stories. And yet, if we don't tell public stories, then I would say the last constituent that we have to worry about, which is our investors, they start to worry, right? They either don't want to give us money, potential future M&A, targets. They don't necessarily know our value, and we can't have an acquisition conversation. So the public layer of that story still matters, even if our three core constituents are not necessarily public, or at least the storytelling to them is not necessarily public in nature. So I don't have a good answer for that. I would suggest to anyone who's wondering about this stuff or thinking about it constantly, pick your targets, tell very specific, very clear stories to them, and hope everything else works out. I would love to hear your side of the story and what you would suggest to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really suitable to give advice, but I think the infrastructure side, I think, is an enabler by choice, right? And so I think to a certain degree, storytelling is also about listening. And infrastructure providers, to me, are often the best listeners in the world because you want to continue to grow with your customers. So for us, cards was often an entry point. But if we just did cards, I don't think we would be able to scale to the point where we did. For us, it's about learning to grow with our customers. And for our customers, they want to be fintech. So they want to do cards and then payments and then yielding and then investments and all of the things in between. So it's about finding the pipes and the tools to be able to grow with them as they have ambitions beyond what their initial point of entry looks like.
Yeah.
Gary, it's a pleasure having you today. I learned a lot about Terminal 3, about storytelling, and about data infrastructure. So appreciate your time and looking forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, thanks. That was a lot of fun, and congrats to REAP again.
Thank you very much.